What's up? This is Dame Lillard, and you are listening to the Trailblazers Balcony with Brooke Olzendam and Casey Holdahl.
Greetings, Blazer fans, and welcome to the Blazers Balcony presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. I am your co-host, Casey Holdahl. I'm joined by my co-host and friend, Brooke Olzendam, at her palatial estate.
There it is.
In southwest
Wow.
Portland. Hey!
Good job, Case.
Had a lot of time to practice.
Yeah, that's true.
We're back.
We're back, baby.
Yeah, that's right. So, Brooklyn, how you doing?
I'm great. We've this is the time of the year where it feels like, okay, we are, like you just said, we are back. You know, we had media day. Today was the first day of training camp. So that's when the ball gets rolling and you're like, okay, the season has begun. So, yeah, I'm excited. And I've said this a bunch of times, and because I really mean it. I always get excited for a season. But this has so many fun storylines. You know, the success that the team had at the tail end of last year, hoping that transfers over to this season. And, you know, those great habits that they really kind of perfected defensively. Not perfected, but, you know, really made a huge jump. Hopefully that continues to this season. There's, you know, young Hansen, Dame's back. There's just so much going on that I can't wait for it. It's like kind of the unknown, which is very exciting. So I don't recall a time that I've been this pumped up for a season to start, and I'm just like, let's go.
Yeah, I would. You're exactly right, Brooke. It just seems like there's a lot of new, interesting things this season. New, old things. Obviously, you talked about Dame. New things, Hansen and Jrue. I think with the way, as you mentioned, the team played at the end of last season, I think some optimism about kind of what this might look like going forward. I think, you know, you have Tamani who gets an all-defensive team, so I think that makes you feel like, well, what can you do this season? Mm-hmm. And you had Denny coming off probably his best season as a pro and really seemed like, you know, even still improving. So I think that there's a lot of excitement there. Donovan Clingan in his second season, moving into the starting lineup with DeAndre Ayton now in Los Angeles. So, yeah, you're exactly right, Brooke. Just a lot of things this year. And I would say that for me this offseason, like, it was such a busy offseason that when the season arrived, I would say I wouldn't necessarily not ready, but like usually there's a few weeks before the season starts where I'm like, okay, like there's been enough downtime. I'm ready to kind of get back to work a little bit. This summer, it didn't feel like the work ever really stopped, so it was more like, well okay, true. Like here we go back into it. So, but you're exactly right. Like I think there's an optimism about the team this year, I think both internally and amongst the fans that I think really makes you excited about the season. You know, you obviously have the Dame Reunion Rally, and I think that kind of does a good job of kind of getting the season off to a good start. And I thought it was great that Rob had mentioned at Media Day, because it was something that I had mentioned as well, that, you know, having that rally, I mean, you know, it was ostensibly to kind of welcome Dame back, but I think they also wanted to be like, hey, and this is also a team thing as well. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was really cool that Rob mentioned, he's like, yeah, you know, like being at that rally, like you really got a sense of like how important this team and someone like Dame is to the city, and kind of, again, just the notion that like, hey, if you buy in and really kind of try to be a part of this community and value the relationship with the team and the city, that like people here are really they love you. Like, mm-hmm. and so I thought that was a cool way to kind of get it started, and then leading into a media day that I would say like was real tight and like well put together. And again, everyone seemed like they were in good spirits. I mentioned that too on the other podcast that I do that no one else listens to, that, you know, I feel like usually there's like, you go into training camp, there's usually like a little bit of like rift, or at least something that kind of needs to get figured out at training camp. This year, other than like, I guess maybe the like who's going to start Jeremy or Shaden thing, which also really feels like it's almost kind of just a made up thing anyways. Like, it just really doesn't feel like there's anything other than like, yeah, we're excited, we're ready to go. Like, let's get this thing started. So I think that's a really nice way to start a season. And
to your point about the rally, so I was able to go to well, that's two rallies. So the Rip City rally, I should have said that's really when it feels like the season's kicking off.
Actually, someone had asked me, like, did you go to the rally? And I was like, no, I don't go to the Rip City rally anymore. They're like, no, the Dame rally. I was like, well, no, I didn't go to that one either, actually.
Hey, you've had quite a history with Dame. He'd be like, what are you doing here? I'm back.
I did text him and be like, hey, just in case you look out in the crowd and don't see me, I'm at Crater Lake with my mom. Like,
well, I'll tell you that he probably wouldn't have seen you, because that's how many people were there.
Yeah.
I mean, they got there early to be in the front. Everyone had their signs that, you know, one side and said, welcome back, Dame. The other was a picture of him. And it was like the excitement building, because people got there early, and then kind of waiting. He's not going to come out right away. And Todd Bosma did a great job he always does, but, hosting the event, keeping the fans engaged and talking about the season while they were arriving, because the team came by bus from the practice facility. And most of the team was there. I think a couple guys weren't even in town yet. But the majority of the team was there. And I loved it when Dame came out and said exactly what, the fans knew he would say. It was just beautiful. It was perfectly said back, in the community that he loves, the fans. Dame knows what he's doing, and he means it. He's always sincere. And so the things that he said really resonated with everyone. And then he really, which is really smart, talked about, but I'm excited to be with this group too. It's not just coming back to the house that I built here or, where my family is. It's about, I'm excited because of the guys on this team, because we know he's an NBA League Pass guy, and of course he's going to watch his former team. So he knows the personnel of the Blazers from the last couple of years. He watches a lot of the games. He even mentioned it, I'd get done with my games in Milwaukee, and then I'd turn on the Blazers and watch it. So it's not just coming home. It's about wanting to be a part of this specific group, and obviously under Chauncey. So it was just great. And then the cherry on top was when, they announced the guys onto the stage. And you're right that some people, even like a young Hansen I'm sure he was like, geez, this is pretty amazing. All these guys, all these fans here for Dame, but also excited for the season because, the rousing applause for everyone. But, Young, there's a lot for Young as well, or Hansen. And so it was a feel-good day. We knew it would be. It was so funny. My son had an 8 a.m. soccer game. It was pouring. I'm like, not today. And then it was like the skies parted, and it was the most beautiful day downtown. Not war-torn by any means. It was beautiful. People were, it was just a feel-good thing, like for the city, for the team, for the fans. Everyone was in a great mood. Everyone's talking shop. Who are you most excited about this season? Who are you most excited about this season? It was just wonderful. And I walked away like that was just what my soul needed. And by the way, shout out to the towns that we visited on the the other rally, the Rip City Rally, Ontario, which, wow, that's a drive. Different time zone. I didn't know about that. But it was awesome because I was able to see my best friend in Boise because I didn't realize I'd be so close to Boise.
Very close to Boise.
Yeah. So then we went to Pendleton, the Dalles, and Gresham, and they're so excited for this season. Again, same sort of vibes from the Dame rally. They're like, oh, we can't wait, and they were naming, they know what our fans, no matter where you are, know what they're talking about. They know. I talked to a gal that has been going to games for decades. I got her mom involved, and they will drive from Pendleton to like 10 games a year and come back. Then I find out there's a flight. The mayor told me this. There's a flight, quick flight to Portland for like $60 that people take all the time. It's like 12 person.
No kidding.
Flight. Yeah. Apparently it's a whole deal, and they go like 5 times a day. So I talked to a guy that flies to Blazers games. He's like, I'm home before. Sometimes, you're wrapping up the pregame show. If I left a little bit early, I'm like, no way. So they're excited about this season. It was so fun to catch up with all of them. Many people ask me, when are you going to do next Blazers Balcony? So shout out to you guys. This one's for you. Yeah. And the feeling, just looking forward to this season being underway. It's across the board. I just think that spirits are high. You mentioned like some performances from last year, like Denny, just unreal. It's just unreal last year. So much fun. And he was great at Media Day, but I know we're going to talk about Media Day. Everyone was. It was totally, like you said, very well put on, very efficient. There are so many stops, and we had even more this year, I think, because of Young Hansen.
Yeah, and the new national TV.
Oh, the national, yes,
as well. So multiple reasons why there were additional stations. Yeah.
So in my mind, I was like, this might not be good because we're adding things that we didn't have before. Not good, but just like I'm not sure if I'll be able to talk to everyone I want to. I talked to every single player, and I don't recall a past media day. There's always someone that has to go do something, or we wrap up, and I haven't got to it. It's fine. I usually get most of them, but first time I found every single player. All of them. And it was just a well-oiled machine, and the guys are excited. They were in great moods. Everyone was it was lovely. I walked away and was like, how was Media Day? I said, best ever. And I meant it, best ever.
It was a very good Media Day. Mm-hmm. I agree. And I thought two things there. One, you talk about the rally, and, we have meetings to kind of talk about, what kind of content we're going to capture at something like that. Yeah. And so we had like a bunch of different ideas, and then like our group now, they're so good at kind of coming up with different ways to approach things. And towards the end of it, though, I was like, hey guys, so just Dame's going to get up and say something great. There you go. Like there's not going to be any problem finding some good content from that rally. Like He's going to get up. He's going to say like 3 things that are going to be like, oh, man, that's so awesome. Just pull that and it'll do great. Right. So like you just kind of slide right back into that. Like, no, this guy knows how to talk. He knows how to get the crowd going. He knows how to
connect.
Yeah, and I would say play to the crowd, but it's really not playing to the crowd. He's being authentic. And yeah, then just the media day piece too. Yeah, like everyone like. I guess what I was trying to say, too, is that there's usually like 1 or 2 guys that are like kind of crabby about media day. I'm like, oh, let's get this over with. Like
even
like,
towards the end a little
exactly.
bit.
And like even guys who are very easy to work with, media day is like, can we just be done with this?
Yeah.
And even from that perspective, everyone seemed like they were really willing and kind of able to kind of just get through it. So I thought it was great. And again, just a real good start to the season. So, kind of speaking of Media Day as well, Brooke, did you have any kind of, what were your maybe takeaways from Media Day? I know that you had a station. I was in the media interview part. So we might have kind of different kind of takeaways from what we saw or kind of how we felt about it. So first off, how did you feel it went for you and kind of what stuck with you about it?
Sure. Oh, wait, like I said, it went great. It was really, what I liked about it is that it was Bruce Seeley was right outside shooting awesome photos, and then there was Todd Bosma and our social team, and then us right next to each other, bam, bam, bam. So I knew who I was going to talk to beforehand because they were coming from Bosma's station. So that was really nice because I'm like, okay, great. You just get mentally prepared, like, oh, I wanted to say this to him, or I get a question about that. And so then they came in. We had a very relaxed situation where we just have a couch. You guys, it's per usual, you've seen it. But we did some different things this year, still involving headphones, but not exactly say what. So that's fun. So you'll still get the personality coming out of, trying to guess or I'm trying to guess. So there's the back and forth. So you get a lot of their personality out of it. And then there's some fashion stuff that you guys are going to love as well. A very, very sincere, honest responses to different things that the players are wearing. Like we, pulled some great ones from great shots from last season. And it was just awesome. Like when you say some guys get crabby, towards the end, which I completely understand, I'll be honest, sometimes I get a little crabby towards the end. I'm like, I'm starving.
Yeah, exactly.
I never once we had a list of, we were checking them off, but it was more just to make sure we got everyone. I wasn't checking it like, oh, how many, 6 more, 5 more. It didn't feel like that. Like when, was it Roops our last person? And we were done. I was like, that flew by. I was never once checking the time or seeing if it was really well put together. And the guys, I give them all credit, all in great moods. From Dame at 8 a.m. like he always is the first.
At 8 a.m.? God, that's coming in late.
Well, he might have been there earlier, but, he was our first one.
Yeah.
I saw Donovan. He came early, too. DC was there.
I think I heard Donovan came through at like 7 or 7:30.
7, yeah.
I heard someone be like, Donovan, because there's always like the first few people that show up, and then the Slack channel, people are like,
oh, no, it's like, bing, 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 bing. Well, we knew they were coming. We knew they were coming. No, you're right. The Slack was blowing up when people got there, but everyone was there. Obviously on time and was at their spots. And shout out to our employees who kind of are their guide and take them spot to spot. Everyone was dialed in and communicating really well. There's an app that we use, which I didn't really do because I was getting ready for people. But everyone was just all connected. And what I took away in terms of the players and chatting with them is that they all really like each other. Like they honestly, and I've said that before and people are like, are you sure? I'm like, well, I don't really go out of my way to say it if I don't think it. And just one of the games we played where I just mentioned, like, we show pictures of their teammates, like they would lit up. They would light up. Like when Denny was doing it and like Roops popped up, he's like, Roops, and would talk about his outfit. But then they see their teammates, like each one would pop up and they'd be like, oh, Big Rob, and lovingly, and our new guys too. They haven't even got a chance to get to know a ton yet. Still the same thing. Ooh, I like that love. See love. That's good. Like they just all really seem to respect each other and they really, really like each other. And that's really what I gained from it. Then, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. But today at training camp, one of the things they asked, like, what do you want to get? You asked, what do you want to get out of it? Is to be connected. Just continue to build the connection with the team. And they have a great base right now. That's kind of my number one takeaway in terms of my conversations with them about each other, which like glowing things, and they're ready to go.
Yeah. I think for me, kind of one of my main takeaways too is that, there's always been a lot of talk about defense and that's where they're going to kind of make their bones. But it again, other than like kind of the scoring piece, and I think, you lose Ant, you lose DA. So, that's a fair amount of scoring there. And, the other side of the ball matters too. And so, you're maybe not giving up as many points because you're replacing those two guys, at least, in theory, with Jrue Holiday and Don McClingan, who are both very good defensive players. So, there's that piece. But the kind of my takeaway coming into media day was, again, almost there's not really any big questions for this team right now. It's like they just need to get together and improve. It's not like there's we were so bad at this last year. Now we've really tried to address it. Now we got to figure it out. It's more like, no, we've been making incremental progress on defense, and really not even incremental. Like I was going through it the other day. I think 3 years ago, I think the Blazers finished 28th or 26th in defensive efficiency. Then the season after that, 23rd, and then last season 16th. So they've been making steady progress, and I think you look at the way the team is constructed now, and you're like, it's kind of hard to imagine they're not even going to be better defensively this year.
Yeah.
So I think that's been a question for this team for the last decade. And so, again, it's not like put to bed or anything, but it's like I think you're now to the point where you're like, no, I feel good about this team defensively. Like they can put a whole bunch of guys out there who are really like, boy, they can play on that end of the ball. So I think that was great. I think how excited some of the guys are to be back. So you talk about Rob, you talk about Matisse as well too. Like, having not really gotten to play a whole lot the last couple of years, and Matisse last year, like I thought that he had some really interesting things to say. And again, just like his kind of attitude when he was there, I thought was great. I always just love hearing Rob talk and kind of his perspective on things too. So like,
that's my dog.
Yeah, that is your dog, DOG. So I thought that was great, and I thought it was interesting too. Some of the ownership stuff, like that was the first time that I feel like anyone with the team had kind of talked about new potential ownership. And it wasn't like a whole lot, but it was more just like, yes, we have had conversations. Yes, we've done had some meetings, which I think. That's obviously an off the court kind of thing, but it's obviously a very important storyline this season. So, I thought that they're even being able to come out and say a few things I thought was great. And
how about Dwayne and Joe?
Yeah, exactly. And kind of and Dwayne saying, that they've met with Tom Dundon, and Joe saying that, he's had some conversations as well. I thought that was really interesting, at least from the off-court perspective piece. And then I feel like just you talk about kind of it being exciting because it does feel like, again, there's a lot of new things, and so you have some new players. So you got Jrue, and you have Hansen and Blake Wesley, and I think with Jrue, you got a guy who I think everyone's really respected throughout the year. So getting him on your team for the second time, technically, I think there's a lot of interest there. I think Donovan, obviously, you take him in the first round last year. He has a pretty good season backing up DA. Now he has a chance to show what he can do defensively as a starter. I think that's kind of new as well. So you got new at guard, new at center. I think with Tumani, the last 2 years the first year was like, hey, this guy's kind of good. Last year was like, holy crap, this guy's great. And now it's like, okay, now he's kind of set a baseline for himself. So seeing what Tumani's able to do as he matures as a player as well, particularly on the offensive end, I think is really interesting. And then you have the kind of the Shaden, unfortunately, the scoop part that stinks so much to have that injury. That's just really a bummer. And every injury kind of stinks, but that one is especially that's a real bummer. So, and that kind of took off like I said, is Jrue going to start? Is Scoop going to start? And then you have kind of that secondary rotation, and it's like, wow, is it what's that going to look like? And then you have Hansen, who you're like, is he going to factor into the rotation? Seems like, initially seems to be the case. So just a lot of different new things to kind of consider. And so I do feel like the Blazers, I would say the past 3 or 4 years, not stagnant necessarily, but just kind of a little formed once they get into camp. And still needed to improve. And a lot of times I think you look at it and you're like, boy, we could still some areas we probably need to address here. This year it feels like things are a little more what's the possibility of this team? What could they be? Sure. And I think as you mentioned, the way you ended the season last year, I think feeds into that as well. So just a whole lot of I think cause for people to be interested in the team. And I think optimism as well. But even if you're I'm not necessarily buying it. I think it's still an interesting team because it's like, what are they going to do? You know, like what is this what is this going to look like this year? So I think when you have a little bit of like enthusiastic newness, like it makes everything feel a little like, yeah, this is going to be fun, and particularly in a season where, you know, I still think they're like right in between like rebuilding and being more competitive. And, you know, I thought that I wouldn't say they walked back the idea of like being a playoff team, but I think, you know, I don't think you want to necessarily saddle your team with too many expectations, particularly when they're somewhat of a young team. Though I think Tualatin, interesting after practice day, was like, yeah, we're not really a young team anymore. And I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, age wise, there might be some youth, but I think like the years and like playing wise, I think they are, you know, kind of starting to grow up a little bit. So just a lot of enthusiasm for what could be this year. And every year there's always going to be some level of like, hey, maybe it's our year. But it seemed to me that this year was a bit more like, yeah, there's like I would say a quiet confidence, but just like, hey, we feel good about where we're at right now. I guess that's the way I would put it, is that whereas before it was like we're trying to get somewhere and we're not there yet. Obviously the Blazers are not the fully formed team they want to be, but it does feel like they're more kind of set in like, yeah, we feel like we've exited kind of the straight up like we're just trying to get better stage. We're just trying to add any kind of talent that we can find out there stage. And now more of like let's see what we have and maybe make some adjustments around the edges and figure out, you know, maybe what works and maybe what doesn't work. And it just seems like it's a little more settled going into training camp than it feels like it's been over the past couple seasons.
Yeah, and it feels like they are forming an identity.
Yeah.
You know, it really does. You mentioned that we talked to Tualatin after camp today, and we were asking him about, you know, what they focus. Well, we watched it, but we were asking them what they really focused on, and it was a pretty intense practice. And defense was the name of the game. And everyone we talked to Coach Denny and Tualatin, that's, you know, to continue to work on what they really got so much better at the end of last season, that they want to, you know, bring that with them this season. So they're starting off with the focus on defense, and then, you know, we know there's some offensive, you know, guys on the team for sure, but they really want to get that down first and like make sure that the team knows that's a huge emphasis. And, you know, Coach talked about it last year that if you're not going to play defense, you won't see the floor. Yeah. So I was not surprised by the focus being on defense today, but when I say focus, I mean it was beginning to end.
Entirely.
You know, Casey and I were there. I mean, we watched; it was beginning to end. And there's at one point I asked Coach about it. I really liked it. I mean, two things. There was a drill, and Michael and Kev Calabro were talking about it. That Michael's like, I've never seen that before, where they were practicing going vertical. Remember that? It was on the other side. And he goes, I've never seen that before. I was like, you know what? I don't recall seeing that before either. And so little things that are focused on defensively, like not fouling, going straight up, like a full-on drill about it. And then later on in practice, you know, Chauncey was like defending, you know, defending the point guard, and he was a couple feet behind him, or in front of him, but like a couple of feet off him. He goes, "This is not doing anything. This is not defending. Got to get up in people. He wants, like we see Tualatin do all the time, like just bothering people, pestering people, not giving them any room to make decisions. You know, be all over them without fouling. And he said, you know, after practice, he's like, that's what our mentality to be at every position. No space in between, bother them, and you can take this next one because you asked the question on what their kind of mantra is this season.
Right, and so they usually have some kind of like theme or motto going into a training camp, and you know the one this year is make them uncomfortable. And so I think that's a really good way to encapsulate kind of what that mentality is like, yeah, like we want to make teams uncomfortable when they play us. And one of the ways you do that is by making sure you're really into guys and not kind of ceding any space on the court that you don't have to cede to your opponent. And so that's going to kind of be that's how they want to build kind of their ethos, I guess, going into the season is like, hey, we want to be a team that makes you like, that speeds you up and is physical and makes you work for everything, and you have to grind versus us. Like I think that, you know, they're really trying to kind of embody, I think, a lot of ways that Chauncey played when he was in the league as well. Just like this idea that, like, hey, like, I mean, those Pistons teams, a great example. It's like, who wants to play those guys? You know, like, you're not going to be able to have like a free flowing offense. Like these guys are going to like get into you and they're going to nudge you and elbow and grab and, again, like make you feel their presence. And that's the way that they want to play this season. And I think, it's just a continuation of what Chauncey's been trying to get this team to do for a while now. And to your point about, like not playing defense and not playing, like making decisions based off of like who's defending well and then living with those decisions.
And he stuck by it.
He did. And I think that sends a message to, in fact, I know that sends a message to everyone that it's like, hey, it's like if a guy who everyone knows is supremely talented is going to come off the bench because he's not doing what he needs to do defensively, like I'm not nearly that good offensively. Like I better really get after it on the defensive end, because if not, like I'm going to be in that same situation. And it's not really that big of a deal because you're still playing minutes, but just the idea that it's like, hey, we're going to reward guys who are really going out there and trying to putting in the same amount of effort on the defensive end, if not more, than they would on the offensive end, which is, that's just kind of the nature of basketball, is you typically concern yourself more with your offense more than your defense. But they don't want to be that team. Like they want to be a team that puts their defense first. So I think that's kind of would be my main takeaway from the first day of practice as well, is that like, yeah, they're really serious about like we're going to get defense settled first, and then we're going to address kind of what we need to do on the offensive end. So, and I think, again, for a team that's been kind of in the weeds for years and years and years when it comes to defense, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I also think, too, that you saw, particularly in the playoffs last year, that like if you have a team that has a lot of kind of hard, scrappy defenders who are willing to put in the work and the energy on that side of the ball, like you can have success against teams that have more kind of straight up talent than you do. And I think for a team like the Blazers, like that's going to be a way that they're going to have to try to win games, is by being a team that just makes you play real hard and has guys who maybe play a little level up from where they're typically at, or where they're assumed to be, because like they're making it really hard defensively. And the other part about that too is that so many teams don't play very hard defense in the regular season, that if you just go out and you're a team that does, you're already like pretty far ahead of the game from a lot of teams, because a lot of times they're like, it's a long season. Like, and that's what people always talk about the playoffs, is like everyone's playing every possession in the playoffs because it's so important. And, it's an 82-game season, so are the 2025-26 Trailblazers going to play every single possession as hard as they possibly can? No, they're going to take some off from time to time. But if they can be a team that is always closer to playing hard every possession, particularly on the defensive end, like that's gonna win them some games that they would not otherwise win, because they don't have the same amount of talent. So I think it makes a whole lot of sense to kind of approach it that way. Again, that's kind of what Chauncey has always wanted to do. That's how he conducted himself as a player anyways. So I think, that is starting to take form now in Chauncey's 5th season, I think it is now. So, it takes a while to get there. You got to get the personnel, and you got to kind of set a culture. But it also seems to me, I guess that would be one of my other takeaways from media day, is that like they seem to have kind of a culture in place right now that I think guys are buying into.
And I mean, think of it, when a team is having struggles offensively, I mean, points off turnovers are like inspiring when you're out there and like maybe, guys are cold or whatever. But if you're out there making your defense translate to offense and you're running the floor, like that's something that can turn a game around. And so I think that points off turnovers are probably going to be a huge key. I bet Michael Holden will make that one of his keys to the game many times this season. But if you can win that points off turnovers battle and just get out and run, because this is, I mean, I think it's a pretty fast team as well. Like the drill they ran today was get out and run, find the open man. And if you can, score like that, and then let's say your offense starts coming around, I mean, sky's the limit, really. And so I think it's a great way to start the season by letting everybody know, too, the guys that are new to the team, like, they don't know any different, so they come in like, okay, we're a defensive team first. That's good to know. That's something that this team, it's important to this team, this coaching staff. And if that's going to lead us to success, then I'm buying all in. I'm all in. I don't know why anyone wouldn't. And again, I think that's a good segue to the importance of Jrue Holiday this season.
Yeah.
We talked to the guys after practice a lot about him too, and I know it's been a short amount of time with him, but a lot of people, you said it too, like I've just watched his career, and I have since college. We talked about it. I covered it in college a little bit, and I said that to him at media. I'm like, you will not remember this. Don't think I'm like, hey, do you remember? I'm not, but I'm just saying. Because of you had a great interview, I really like.
But I did interview at UCLA one time. Yeah.
I did one time, and he, of course, he didn't even pretend to be like, "Oh yeah, I remember that time." But I was like, because of it, and I really I like this guy. This guy is great to talk to. I don't want this to sound creepy, but I've obviously followed your career because a lot of guys that I covered in college, I like to see where they're at, and I follow them. Like, oh yeah, and so he's someone that is easy to root for, so likable. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to find someone that doesn't have a ton of respect for Jrue and all that he's done. So he automatically comes on to a team with respect from his teammates, and then he's going to bring something that I think will just be leadership, of course, but also I want to play like that guy.
Yeah.
And I want to play like him. That he'd be inspiring to his teammates. I believe he will this season. So I've loved that addition. I mentioned Young earlier and the new guys, and I didn't mention Jrue. And I couldn't be more pumped about him being a part of this team. It's only positives, and I think it's great. And when Dame does come back, those two they have a really close relationship. So it's nice that they can kind of go back and forth. I mentioned it to Dame about how nice it is to have. Or Jrue, no, it was Jrue at his when he came to Portland first. How nice it is to have someone kind of in your same wheelhouse of life, kids, a little bit old, the older guys on the team, and I think he's just going to be a wonderful asset and just a really great role model for some of the younger guys, especially.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting too that I think it was Jason Quick had asked him a question, and I think he's exactly right that there it seems like there's kind of maybe an assumption that you're here to be a mentor to this team and maybe not so much as of a player. And I think that's something that those of us who work for the team have always been like, no. They're bringing in Jrue Holiday. I mean, obviously he's a great guy and a vet, and he is going to mentor guys, and that's awesome. He's coming to play. They want Jrue Holiday because they want Jrue Holiday to play for the Portland Trailblazers, not because they want him to bring along the next generation of guys. Right. I mean, again, he's going to be helpful in that, and that's great, and that's who he is as a person, as a player. But no, the point of acquiring Jrue Holiday is because Jrue Holiday is still a heck of a player at this, even at this point in time in his career. And to your point, Brooke, the kind of guy who plays a way where I think other guys see it and are like, yeah, I want to do that too. I can do that. Jrue Holiday's not going out and beating teams because he's super athletic. He's not going out and scoring 35 points a night. He's going out and playing smart basketball in a way that anyone who is willing to put in the effort and the time and has the wherewithal to understand the game can play. And I'm not saying anyone can be Jrue Holiday. Anyone cannot be Jrue Holiday.
Right.
But he plays in a way that's that I think inspires other guys to be like, yeah, I could probably do that too, or at least I could be better than I am if I just kind of approach it the right way. I think also his affect and the way that he treats people, I think really goes a long way. I think people really respect and like who he is. One, because he's had success on the court, and that while also being a really great guy, $1 million
smile.
It'd be one thing to be like, oh, dude, he's so great with everyone. Everyone loves him. And, you're the 8th or 9th guy on the team. And it's and that's cool. But that feels a little bit different than it's no, this guy is a Hall of Famer who's also really kind and is competitive, but also is going to help guys and to really have a team first mentality. So I think that's really great. And I think, again, just having him around is going to be awesome. And then, that's why I asked Chauncey, it's well, he's new this year. Does a guy like Jrue Holiday I don't even think I got all the way through the question, or Chauncey's no, he's not. He's played so much basketball. He's so smart about basketball that if he had never once seen a Portland Trailblazers playbook, he could still come in here and be like, okay, no, I know what we're doing here. That's great. And again, I think Chauncey had also mentioned too, he's and that's something that really we haven't had in a while. Even, and particularly from a defensive perspective, because you had an arch leader and a guy like Dame, but again, Dame's a certain kind of player that it's I don't think you look at Dame and you're like, I can do that. Like, it's like, no, I don't, that's not what I can do. Like, but I think Jrue has an ability, and the fact that it is on the defensive end too, because again, there's so many guys who are like great offensive players in the NBA, and a lot of guys too that it's like they could be bigger scorers than they are in the NBA if they got the opportunity, because there's just so many guys that are so good on that side of the ball. That's not necessarily the case on defense. It's like there's not a guy who's like, I could be a better defender, I just don't get the opportunity to defend well. It's like, that's entirely on you. Yeah, like an offense, sometimes you're going to be asked to do things that maybe are going to limit your ability to have success, at least in terms of scoring. It's hard to imagine like what that thing is defensively. If they're like, hey, maybe don't like gamble for steals on every single play.
Right.
But outside of something like that, maybe don't try to block every single shot. Other than that,
unless
though,
you're
it's
Donovan.
like, unless you're Donovan, and it's like, fine, go ahead. But there's not really a defensive corollary to that. It's like, no, you can go out and play hard and be determined on defense every single play, regardless of how many minutes you get, and you can be successful by doing that. And I think a guy like Jrue shows that, like, hey, if you do things that way, and also if you have an underrated offensive game, like you could be a 14 or 15 year vet and still be, at the top of your game, which I think he is. So I think that addition is I think something that I'm probably most excited to see this season, just kind of what impact that has. And again, like I think if he entered the team, like, again, if it was like a few years ago when they first got him and then traded him, and if it was a situation where it's like, hey, like, I'm still at the point in my career where like I feel like I'm real close to a championship. Can I do that? Like, if that were the case, it probably doesn't work as well. But it really seems like he's coming in, like he knows his role. He knows what the coaching staff wants from him, particularly Chauncey. I'm sure he's had a lot of conversations with Chauncey about like, hey, this is what I think you can do for this team. I try, and I'm doing a pretty good job with it. But some of this stuff has to come from players, and you're a guy who I feel like is probably an extension of the coaching staff. Yeah. So, like, I just think that's working out real well, and I think it's going to pay real dividends for this team, and something that I think is going to be super fun to watch because, he's just a player that, again, I think anyone in the league is going to respect, and I think as far as fans go, like, they're going to watch him play and they'll be like, I love this guy. And I guess the last thing I would say, too, is that, like, I just always remember how hard Jrue Holiday was on the Trailblazers in that playoff series when he was with the Pelicans. It's like, that was like, this guy is beating our ass right now. And there's nothing that anyone on this team seems like they can do about it. Like, we are getting dominated by this guy. And you expected that with Anthony Davis. I don't know if you necessarily expected it with Jrue Holiday. And he absolutely rolled this team when they were in that playoff series. So, like, he's got that going for him too. Yeah, that'll always be in my mind.
No, you've mentioned, the leadership aspect, but being on the floor. But just let everyone know, Dame was there today. You know, from the sidelines, watching, chatting with people. So that's nice to see. And he'd said he's obviously going to be very involved as he does his rehab and gets back to healthy. Total side note, but did not know he was friends with Speed. I am Speed.
Yeah, I mean, friends might be too strong. I don't know.
They worked out together.
He was doing I think that Speed fellow was like on a tour.
Yeah,
like I saw he
US,
was. He was with.
I just found out who he was.
He was with Jrue Holiday.
Because of that, by the way.
So I've always known that he's like the streamer that seems like he's the best person. Like, he seems like a nice guy. Like, and
I've done my research
like
now, and he seems great.
Some of those streams, it's like I mean,
I'm confused
I know it's like
well.
a super old person thing, but it's like I just don't understand what.
I don't either.
Why are you guys just hanging out watching people sitting in a room talking to each other about or like playing a video game? Like, it's.
I know. Trust me.
It's just but we don't need to talk about this anymore because this is going to make me feel stupid.
I'll say I felt stupid because. It popped up that, it showed them working out together. And then I was like, who is this guy? And I kind of think I might have heard Speed before, but I didn't.
It's been filtering kind of into like more mainstream. Like,
yes.
Like I think he's doing commercials now and stuff.
Oh,
I like,
yeah. Upon my, research, recent research, he is doing a lot of that. And he is, I think he's either number one or I was informed while we were waiting at Media Day that he and, gosh, even everyone was embarrassed. I was embarrassed. Like, you don't know who that is? It was like, is it Kai Cenat?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
I've heard that. I don't know anything. I couldn't point him out if I saw him. But so we were chatting about that. But when he was downtown, it was popping up on my feed, and I was having dinner with my son, and I go, oh, Dame's working out with, who is this? I go, I guess I Am Speed. And my son does not get excited about anything. He goes, Dame's with Speed? I'm Speed? I was like, who? Do you know who that is? He's like, of course everyone knows who that is. I'm like, he goes, you didn't take me downtown? I was like, I did not know about it.
Supposedly it was it was
crazy.
He drew a huge crowd.
Oh,
which I think his streams get like tens of millions of people on him, which is like, look, like that might not be my thing, but there's obviously a huge appetite for that.
There is an audience. So I was showing it to him, and it's so funny, like the level of celebrity and like how people like view it, because Theo's met Dame a number of times throughout his life since he was 2 years old. And he thinks he's great, but again, my son's a soccer fan, so if it was a soccer, it's just different. But I've never seen him light up so much. He goes, to go like, Dame knows Speed? I'm like, yes, but also Speed knows Dame. And he was like, but Speed? And so I got in big trouble for not taking him downtown once, which I didn't know about till after the fact.
Sorry to you.
But yeah, so that's I didn't know. This is my FYI. Casey and I are not cool when it comes to streamers. We don't know
you could
anything
just
about
that
it.
After not cool. Period. But yeah, no, it's because also too, when you think about it, like this is the first. Like, people are famous for streaming now, and it's still like a pretty new medium. Like, I would say television was probably the last time where you had like new stars, because it's like, yeah, like you had movies or you had radio, or I'll take it even further back. You had plays and things like that, and people grew to prominence because of their work there. And then radio comes in, and maybe you become a radio star, but I still think that's probably a little scant. Music, obviously, you can build a fan base, and people will be excited to see you. Obviously, television and movies, same thing. But then there's probably between like the advent of kind of television to where it could be in your home in the 60s until 10 years ago when streaming kind of came on, like there hasn't been anything in between. So I guess what I'm saying is like there's new ways to be famous now that haven't existed. Like there hasn't been a new way to be famous in the last 50 years until streaming came on.
That's very true.
I guess maybe you could say kind of social a little bit, but I also feel like that's kind of almost the same thing.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I came across something on Instagram or somewhere where it was like side by sides, and it was like, we'll go with like Julia Roberts and how much she's worth, and then some TikToker double.
Yeah,
and they're probably 20 or 18 or 20 years old. So, if you got into it early and figured it out, I can't hate on you, because they're rolling in it and they know what they're doing. And again, never would have seen
people want that. Like it's mystifying to me, but like, hey, I think that there's obviously a real interest there to consume that kind of content, and shout out to those people who are doing it. There's also people out there that are god awful and it's super caustic, and
I know.
I think probably
you got the gamut, of course, like anything, you got the good ones and the not so great ones. But yeah, so Dame getting ready for the season to be a mentor and rehab and hanging out with the kids and supporting the streamers, which is very much he's well respected on all levels.
Yeah.
And so I'm not surprised, but I have to believe that I'm just guessing here, but I have to believe like this I Am Speed. I wish I knew his real name, because I feel so weird going I Am Speed.
I even put it in our chat. I was like, I am typing speed, and I was like, and I even feel like an idiot for having to type that. But there we go.
But I have to believe he looked at, to keep it moving and make it entertaining, even though he doesn't. Sounds like he's already quite entertaining, but to keep it rolling and have it be like the fans be more excited for the next stop and next. Because he already did Europe. I found that out. He did Europe, and he's done with that. So now it's America, the States. And so he's going city to city. And so I have to believe he looked at the stops, and like his people reached out, like, who should I see in Portland? And I love the fact that, I bet he was like, whoa, Damian Lillard's back in Portland. That's the guy. So reached out to him. And then he saw I think it was another NBA player in San Francisco, I think was his next stop.
Sure.
There was someone famous.
I saw him in Phoenix, Devin Booker. I saw that.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Too, yeah.
But so I just have to believe he looks at when they planned it, looked at every stop, reached out. And so I thought that was kind of cool, and I'm sure that the fans, they looked like they were loving it. I couldn't believe it. I was awesome. Like, that's downtown Portland right now. Oh my gosh!
People and that almost kind of brings it back to the Dame Rally thing a little bit, which is like, if you show up in Portland and you're like, hey, I'm going to do something in Portland, like people are going to come out and they are going to be excited about it.
Yep.
Like you are going to get a response in Portland because we just don't always kind of get as much stuff as other places. And you're going to show up and you're, I wouldn't say surprised to say it, but you're going to draw a crowd and people are going to be enthusiastic about it. It reminds me of when Dave Chappelle did that set in Pioneer Crowd Square a decade ago, and it was just the place was packed, and it was just a random show up, and it's because
we want it,
do stuff.
We're hungry for it. By the way, he did say Portland is the littest city he had been to.
I was hoping you were going to get to that because which I was curious, is it littest or it should be the most lit? What's
lit?
What's the
Casey
grammar
would
rules
be I don't know if he said that correctly.
Yeah, well, but it's also because I say the wrong words and my work is full of typos anyways, so it's I should be the last person being well, actually, I think probably most lit is probably the way you're supposed to do it. But
so funny.
Littest is nice funny. Too. So,
but Dame was there, and also I don't know why this crossed my mind, but we were talking about guys, coming back and seeing each other for the first time in a while, and media day, and that's when I first saw that it appears not exactly, but that Tualatin and Matisse have swapped hairdos.
Yeah, no,
I was when Matisse came in, I was oh, because they all look great no matter what. But that I'm so used to Matisse's hair. I mean, you just got used to it. It was like that for so long. I was oh, you look great, but I was I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah,
I was shooketh by it, but. There was always a couple new looks when we returned for the season. Always, a couple of things you look different. You looks great.
Tuamani's was more. I was more surprised by Tuamani's than by Matisse's.
I was too.
Because Matisse was big last year, but I don't know why in my head it. I don't. But yeah, Tuamani cutting it all off But now I'm also. It's that thing where now I can't envision what Tuamani's hair looked like last year.
I can right now. I can't exactly because I don't know. I'm interviewing him. I'm looking at him eye to eye. I mean, you do too, but I can see it right on.
I did think though, and I'm curious if you thought this too, because I think I'm probably wrong, and maybe it was just kind of listening to it again on audio. But I also felt Tuamani sounded a bit his voice has changed a little bit. Maybe he hasn't been around a lot of English speakers or something, because it did seem to me that it was his affect was a little bit different, and maybe it was just the mic audio,
I didn't think about it, but you might. Now that I'm thinking about it, you might. And he was more. What's the word I'm looking for? Not louder, but he was. Not to say he before he was more quiet, you couldn't hear him, but he talked with his chest today.
Yeah, a little more gregarious, maybe.
Yeah, I'll say that gregarious. It was only in a positive way. I'm saying.
Yeah, no.
But no, he was great today. Again, just a wonderful group of guys. I'm going back to media day, but it was just a pleasure. Everyone was great, and again, happy to be there, and just a good group. No one that I'm I wonder what version I'm going to get of this guy. Mm-hmm. You know that these guys, and they're always 100% who they are. And I'm really looking forward to getting to know the newer guys. But I already get a vibe. I would like to give a shout out to Chris. It's Chris, right? Hansen's interpreter.
Yes,
that guy. I found myself staring at him the whole time during the training camp today, because it was so. I was amazed by it. That's not the word I'm looking for, but I was mystified. I just was watching him he's got this job to a science. During drills, he's out there translating what the coaching staff is saying, and then when that drill is actually going on, I thought it was so cute. He was on the sideline, but he's down in a stance, he's ready to play. He's got a towel on his shoulder. I mean, it was almost like he was emulating.
He's pretty demonstrative when he's doing it, which I think probably helps the translation. I think. I remember when I took a couple sign language classes in college, and there's this notion, it's called, I think, total communication, which is that, you obviously use the language, but it's also kind of the way that you, present yourself that helps a broader understanding of what you're trying to say. And so I think with Chris and Hansen, it's there's probably parts of the English that Chris understands that maybe is kind of hard to verbalize.
Sure.
So it's easier just to be do the stance kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I got to know Chris a little bit, at Summer League, and he's a great guy, and obviously Hansen is great too. And I'm looking forward to hearing more of Hansen's English too. I almost wanted to get him to the side and be Hansen, let's just have a conversation. This is not for anything. I just want to talk to you in like just very basic stuff, and like we'll just, I wouldn't say practice your English because he doesn't need my help, but like I just want to talk to him a little bit more in English, because like again, like you could tell that like he answered a few questions, and like I think he's ready to start using it a little bit more. I just think as a 20-year-old, you got all the cameras there. It's like,
oh yeah, it's a lot.
It's a little concerning, yeah. But also he wants to crack jokes a lot too, and that's kind of like one of the harder things to do. Like it's usually like euphemisms are the kind of things where like that's kind of the last part you get to in terms of language, because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and like when you're learning a language, like it's helpful to have like literal expressions for things, and then when you take those literal expressions and kind of turn them on their heads, that can make it hard to understand, some of those turns of phrase. But I think he's getting there, so I'm looking forward to it. But I almost wanted to just like, can I set aside like 1 minute where I could just talk to
corner him?
Yeah, exactly.
You can't go anywhere.
Like,
talk to me.
I'm not recording this. I'm not using
it
for anything. I'm just like,
well, it was the cutest thing after was it Dame's press conference? I think it was. Yeah, it was Dame's press conference. And I was walking out to my car in the parking lot, and Chauncey was out there, and I hadn't seen him. I was like, hey, and it was right after Summer League. How was Summer League? He's like, it's great. I go, how is Hansen? I'm so excited. We met him at his press conference, but it was just, shaking hands, like a line of people, and so we didn't get to talk to him. But I go, he seems great. Like that first game of Summer League, where just that first play, had an awesome pass, and I was just wanted to pick Chauncey's brain about him, because I was like, I'm just really pumped up to cover him this season, and I'm really excited about it. And he's like, Brooke, you're going to love him. You're going to love him. He spent 2 weeks with him, very close parameters with him and talking to him all the time. He said he's just, not only is he a great player, but he's just hilarious. He's like, he's really funny. And he told a story, and I don't know if he talked about this or this made it to social. I can't remember if it was recorded or not. I think maybe it was, like for our social. But he said, this is Chauncey telling me, he said he came up to him like towards the end of Summer League. So they've spent some days together. And he said something like, Coach, I have an American, or I have an English line I want to say to you. And Chauncey was like, great, hit me. And he said, and he like stopped and like really thought about it. And he said, I think it was, I don't know if exactly, but close, like, I want all the smoke.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And I thought that was so funny.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I think that got used in like a clip the NBA put out. Yeah, where he's like, "I want smoke." And
it was great.
Yeah. I put that on a red note, and then I had a bunch of people in Chinese being like, "Well, he probably shouldn't start smoking. Like, it's not going to be good for him." And parts we understand maybe that's part of American culture, but I don't really. And I was like, "Guys, it's okay. Like It's just a saying. I don't think that Hansen's going to take up smoking so necessarily.
Funny.
So
you're right.
But
Translation difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's like one of those things where it's like, no, it's not really what he's saying. But yeah.
But also, Coach spoke on it, and so I think the players did too afterwards, saying even though he's 100% fluent, and basketball is a language everybody understands. When you play the game, especially at that level. And I remember watching Summer League and him like leading, like telling guys where to go.
Absolutely, first play.
And I wasn't even first play, and I wasn't. I couldn't hear. Maybe you can tell me, but I couldn't hear through the television what he was saying. But it didn't even feel like it mattered. The guys just knew what he was telling, where to go, and so what I love is he's newly 20 years old. In a new country, playing at a high level, and doesn't know the language that everyone else does yet, but is practicing. But how intimidating is that? I mean, how intimidating is all of that? And you're picked higher than you were projected to. I mean, I'm just thinking about when I was 20 years old. Can you imagine going over? I mean, I would be like, "What is this world? Oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. This is too much." And he's having a ball. He does not seem like he doesn't appear to me that he's overwhelmed. But in that situation, I could see how it could be exceptionally overwhelming for someone, especially at his age. But good for him for coming in and being like, well, I have Chris, that's helpful. I'm going to be at everything. I'm going to give it my all. And everything else is hopefully just going to fall in place. But I would be scared to death.
I've tried to, I've had people be like, I've asked people like, how do I say this in Mandarin? And then try to say it back to Hansen. And I've done it like 3 times now, and every time he just kind of looks at me like,
what are you doing?
What? And it's obviously like I'm not getting it right. And every time I'm like, all right, I'm never going to do that again. So like, And that's just a one-on-one where like I'm just trying to be like, hello,
Right.
I think you played good basketball today, Hansen. It's very nice to have you. And even then, it's just like, that's
how
not
funny.
even close. And
How
it's like,
funny.
all right, like I'm never gonna try again. So, and the fact that he's doing that, like, and on a team and
Yes.
like, plays and like
Everyone.
yeah, that can't be easy, and I feel like he's doing a really good job with it. And
He is.
I think everyone's doing a really good job with him as well.
Absolutely.
And I think that's obviously going to be helpful to have, again, a staff that's like, we're going to help you here, and we're not. And that's, I think, one of the nice things too about kind of the changes that have happened in, I feel like in coaching and sports in general, is just that it's a lot less like the coach is the dictator and what he says goes, and fall in line or find somewhere else to be. Like, I feel like all coaching now is a little more like, no, we're going to try to like help people and less like do this or else. Like,
Sure.
And I think it's better, I think, for the athletes and for the coaches, but also particularly for a guy who's coming into a new situation. I think that's helpful to just be like, okay, like I could think of like other coaches in my head that was like that wouldn't necessarily be how those interactions would go. Like, it would be more like, again, figure it out or get off the court because we don't have any time for you. Like, so I think it's important that everyone has gotten a little more soft is not the right word, but just a little more understanding about athletes and how, they are actually people who, generally perform better when they feel good about things and when they feel better about themselves than when they don't feel good about themselves.
And with Hansen, I noticed a few times, I don't know if you did today at training camp, where after drill, like, he's having conversations with players. Players are talking to him, and they're laughing, so they understand.
I think he's absolutely using English like one-on-one a lot more than I think probably.
Because he said something to, I believe it was Liam. I saw it numerous times where like they're laughing about something that happened. I'm like, they're totally having a conversation, and he knows what they're saying, and they know what he's saying. So I do think the one-on-one stuff is more comfortable, and probably, obviously more comfortable than like public speaking or doing an interview. But I think there's a comfortability there, like with your team. Like he's trying, in that aspect. So they're speaking. They speak different languages, but when you watch them, they speak the same language, which is basketball, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. And I would say we fell kind of right back into it too, Brooklyn. Even
Yeah.
after taking a little bit of
Fun.
time. So yeah, well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Blazers Balcony, presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. I should tell you real fast, Bobby Lee, Spirit Mountain Casino, September 8th, 7:00 show, starting at $50. Bobby Lee, LA-based podcaster, comedian,
Very funny.
all around good guy. Yeah, I think he does that podcast with that ginger guy.
Oh yeah, what's that guy's name?
Santine.
But he's also always, like we were just talking about, always on with Theo Vaughn, always.
Right, yeah.
Who is,
another streamer, I guess.
No, I like to call him former road ruler.
Former road ruler.
MTV road ruler.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's really, really done well for himself. Used the platform very well.
Yeah. God, there's a lot of money there.
Oh my gosh! And that one guy that was on Real World, that's now the biggest WWE guy. I can't.
Oh,
remember.
The Miz,
The
right?
Miz,
Yeah.
The Miz.
Yeah.
Some people really, kudos to them. Took that like 15 minutes and made a huge career out of
See,
it.
that should have been like Carlos should have been a bigger thing. You remember Carlos was on the first Road Rules, and
Yes.
he was the one that got pulled over, and like the cops were giving him crap,
Yes.
and he was like, I always thought Carlos. And then there
forgot
was
about
like that big meathead's probably not the right word, but he was kind of like a. He reminds me of Myers, actually, like Leonard, like just kind of like he had the hair like Johnny Bravo kind of.
Yeah, I can't
Anyway,
remember.
yeah, I
can't remember his name.
Go see Bobby Lee on November 8th. Spirit Mountain Casino. We are going to do a live show at Spirit Mountain Casino, Brooke.
Woo!
That's going to happen.
That sounds awesome.
They have offered a room now, too, I guess. So,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we're
We're
gonna
in.
make it happen.
So we'll go down there and we'll podcast, and then I will go lose however much money I am going to allot myself, but we'll have fun doing the podcast.
That's a good point, too, Spirit Mountain Casino, is that if nothing else, I'm going to dump more money back into your casino than you were going to have to.
You're very smart to invite Casey and I.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you pay, if a room is $150, I'm going to lose $500 gambling because I was on a great run in Vegas and I have been ice cold.
Well, when you're there in Vegas that long, there's no way you're going to come out of that on top.
No, I did come out of Vegas. I came out on top.
Really?
At the local Northwest casinos, not so much out on top. Yeah. Also, too, the sports betting not coming out on top as it would. The NFL has been it's been tough this year.
It's been interesting, but
yeah.
I just heard on the radio today, NFL's already a fourth over like the season. I guess that makes sense, but it kind of seemed like, wow, that happened kind of fast. But the last thing I'll say, but how about those Mariners?
Congratulations to the Mariners. They're long in the wilderness in terms of are they in the wild card or are they like in the playoffs?
They're
okay,
in
so
the
they're
playoffs.
in the playoffs because was it last year or 2 years ago? There was like
oh gosh,
it was like the 3-game playoff or like the 1-game playoff and they lost it or I don't even remember.
I know, but it was they're doing something different this year and then in years past where they gave hope like towards the end of the season, like they kind of turned it on a little bit, and then you got everyone real excited, and then lost them, like then kind of went back down. But this year, it's the opposite, like getting people excited, then getting even better, and continuing to win. It's like they're on an arc. So, just wanted to say good job to them and good luck.
Congratulations to the Mariners. I do want to say one thing, and I say this I don't say every single year, but anytime that the topic comes up, it does bother me that you're allowed to celebrate just making the postseason in baseball.
Oh, like champagne and
exactly.
stuff.
You do the champagne, which is great. Awesome. Celebrate your victories. I think that's great. Let every other sport do that too. If, that wouldn't work in, I feel like, any other sport. It's like, act like you've been there before.
That's
like
true.
You haven't won anything yet. And it's like, and all that stuff's kind of true. But it's like, but in baseball, they get to feel excited.
Well, they play a lot of games.
That's true. They do. Actually, you know what? I take it back. If you get through a 182-game season and you're still playing games, you should celebrate that because you've played so much already. That's a great point.
That's a way
Brooke.
to end it on a positive.
Yeah, exactly. We shouldn't take shots at the MLB. So congratulations to the Mariners. Go see Bobby Lee at Spirit Mountain Casino on Saturday, November 8th. And check out the Portland Trail at FanFest this weekend on
I'll
Saturday.
be there.
Brooke will be there, probably doing a little hosting, maybe a little talking.
I'll interview players and coach throughout the scrimmage, if you will, and then, as always, there'll be, I assume, some rookie dancing at the end or something.
I think too. I think this year, I think we've had a so young of a team the last couple of years. Now we have a little more veterans on it. Veterans know how to be like, okay, guys, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to come along really well. So who was it that Scoot did a great job singing 2 years ago?
He did.
I think he sang Faith Hill or something like that. It was
he did. What was it? Well, yeah, it was great. I remember that.
It was great.
So
thank you so much for joining us. As always, good to be back. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast because we are going to be doing these on a weekly basis. Probably. Yeah, probably. Voice raise at the end means question, I guess. So for myself, for Brooke, thank you so much for joining us. As always, thank you, Spirit Mountain Casino. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace out.